G'day ladies and gents, and welcome back to DCS World with Mags. So, in preparation for the F-14 Tomcat being released hopefully sometime this year, I have been spending my time practicing carrier landings in the SU-33. And that's what I'm going to show you today. But first things first, we can't have a landing without a takeoff. So we're going to do a takeoff first. This should also show rather clearly why you can't use Russian carriers to practice takeoffs for an American aircraft. Here we go. Throttles to 100%, full afterburn, release brakes, and we roll forward up the ramp. And that's it. I kid you not, that's the entire takeoff. Russian carriers have a ramp, they don't have a catapult system, so there's nothing there that you need to order released or anything along those lines. I have a tendency to drop my flaps for a few seconds as soon as I clear the ramp, just to give myself a little bit of extra lift, but it's entirely unnecessary for the most part. Just retract your landing gear and keep the engines on full afterburn until you've sustained level flight, because if you don't, you fall into the water, and it's as simple as that. So yeah, that's why I can't use Russian carriers to practice takeoffs for the F-14 when it comes out, because Russian carriers, for the most part, and their US counterparts, are nothing alike in their takeoff and launch systems. It's why you'll very rarely see in any photographs of Russian carriers anything but aircraft that have an incredibly high thrust-to-weight ratio on their decks, because they need that to get off the deck. You couldn't launch some of the aircraft that US carriers launch off the deck of a Russian aircraft carrier. They simply don't have enough power to actually pull themselves into the air off the end of the short deck and the ramp. So anyways, that's the takeoff covered. Now for the second part. Now the reason why I'm making a video out of this is because I know I have a large number of subs who really enjoy watching aircraft land. And I get comments all the time whenever I edit the landing out of a video, because I feel like it's going to bloat the video a little bit, that I should have left the landing where it was. Well, here is a video with 2 landings in it, and the entire video is devoted to landing, so this one is entirely for you guys. I do have to say I was actually really nervous trying my first carrier landing. This was my first attempt, by the way. It took me 2 shots to put the SU-33 on the deck for the first time, and I almost did it in 1. Except I forgot one small, extremely minor detail on this one, and it caused a failure. So, current airspeed's around 430 kilometers per hour. We're sitting at around about 680 meters in a smooth glide descent. The carrier is straight in the water, so we've got a nice line up here. Now, the particular mission that I'm playing at the moment is actually specifically designed to teach you how to carrier land. It's the entire purpose of this mission. But that doesn't mean it's not possible for you to mess this up. Still at 440. Now this is my first time, as I said before, approaching a carrier deck, and I was a little concerned about the 440 speed. I'm used to landing on a runway. And I suppose when you think about it, 440 isn't a particularly high speed for a runway landing. It's a lot of planes will touch down at that. But this is an aircraft carrier. It hasn't got an incredibly long deck, and while it does have an arrestor hook system, I was rather concerned. Still, landing gear is dropping. It's locked into position. We're almost there. I'm slightly further to the right hand side than I would like. Touchdown, we hit the wires, and we're off the end of the deck. So quickly punch the throttles through to maximum, go to full burn, retract the undercarriage, start getting some altitude so we don't fall into the drink. So what went wrong? I touched down perfectly fine. You can hear the clunk of the wires as I passed over the top of them, and then I was off the end of the deck. Well, I forgot to drop the arrestor hook. But one of the fantastic part about simulations is when you cock something up that bad, you don't get your wings taken away from you and promptly get discharged from the Air Force or the Navy or whichever branch you happen to be flying for. You just have to go and try it again. So once again, 440 kilometers an hour, smooth descent, we're lined up on the carrier. Important thing to remember with carrier landings, unless something has really cocked up, there is never a crosswind. The carrier always turns into the wind for aircraft recovery. Also, you're not hitting a stationary carrier. As a general rule, the carriers will be operating in the upper ranges of their maximum speed during aircraft recovery. But again, this is assuming that something hasn't gone completely cock up. The carrier is undamaged and is able to operate at optimal efficiency. So at this point we're dropping the landing gear, and this time we're also going to drop the tail hook so we don't forget it twice in a row. We're still sitting smoothly on the glide path, and at this point we're configured for landing. So, fingers crossed, we should be fine. Now, I'm still a little nervous about that 440, so this time I'm going to use the air brake on the way down. I'm going to drop down to just below 400. Try for a touchdown speed of around 390, which, really, 440 was kind of fine. In hindsight, I really didn't need to drop it down. With the tailhook deployed, I think it would have caught without any issues at all. In fact, I dropped pretty far down on the glide slope this time. I think it may have been the slight overusage of the air brake. But we're pretty much on target. In the end, I guess it all comes down to how hard you actually want to hit the deck when you pull up and catch. There you go. SU-33 down on a Russian carrier deck. Honestly, it was nowhere near as hard as I was expecting it to be. It was simply a matter of balancing the speed and making sure you hit the deck at the right angle. It was, yeah, not really much of a challenge at all. It was a lot of fun, however. After this particular landing, I did a few more passes around just to make sure I had it down, and I hit the deck perfectly every time, almost picking up the first wire on every single landing, looking at the replays afterwards and checking them closely. So, yeah, I think I might actually load up the SU-33 campaign and play through it, because I kind of like the idea of operating off a carrier. At the very least, playing through the campaign will give me a fairly sharp eye for when the F-14 finally arrives, because I do believe it's actually coming with its own carrier. But of course, it would have been awfully rude to leave the SU-33 parked in the middle of the aircraft carrier on the recovery deck, so I think I should probably taxi it away. So anyways, ladies and gents, I hope you enjoyed the video. Today's one is only a short one and a fairly simple one. I haven't had time to prepare anything more complex. I have also not had time over the last week after working on the Above the Cliffs of Dover video to really get anything else built up. So I've been rather tied down on that. However, tomorrow I do have a special video on a game that will be newly released that is coming out. So tune in then. Until next time, ladies and gents, click like if you do, subscribe if you want to see more, fly smart, fly safe, I'll catch you in the skies.